Hello, all of you out there who have chosen to listen to me ramble about a movie from 2019 instead of watching videos about ferrets in a ball pit, stoats, honey badgers, or whatever cute, ferocious animal that you like to be your Patronus. Anyways, um, let's start off with a statement that I was just thinking in my head as I was changing my underwear, and it goes like this: is if you live in fear of the truth, you will always be overshadowed by the lie, which means that again that has to do with the ethos of evil persists when good men do nothing. Now, as it was with the enhanced interrogation techniques, um, there was a lot of incompetence and a lot of deviousness. And it's not like the CIA has a stellar reputation, right? They have to do some dirty business occasionally in order to um, bring about an outcome that is favorable to the United States and its interests, to put it lightly. And the interest of the United States is to sustain itself. And I have no problem with sovereignty. I have no problem with borders. Frankly, you know, I think we should have a tighter control on our individual boundary lines of sovereignty, because good fences make for good neighbors, right? I'm not particularly interested on going on some sort of witch hunt against the CIA or any other agency, because quite frankly, I wish to humanize people who have made mistakes and bring them to justice so that they don't continue the cycle of abuse that they were taught was the correct way to do things. And as George Washington said, and I'll paraphrase him here, is that a man soils himself in his country when he commits an act of it's at the end of this movie, and it's just very good. It's very good, and it still rings true to this day. Now, individually, I've walked very far distances to survive in order to be somewhere for someone, and because they were immature, and because they were emotionally charged, quite frankly, they were freaking out. And, I understand that. I understand why they would be freaking out. But how we handle something is not up to a superior officer. It's up to an individual. Your individual actions drive the shaping of the landscape that is the battlefield. And Canada, unfortunately, has a few pockmarks or blemishes on its otherwise lusterious record of military action. Like there's things that Canadians have done that have not ever seen the light of day, and they changed the face of the world for the better. Again, there's people out there that will not ever receive recognition, and they will not ever receive a medal. They won't ever receive a plot in the Arlington Cemetery. Maybe at Valhalla, but Valhalla doesn't exist. And I'm not talking about the cemetery that's in California with the gate dedicated to aviation, right? The pioneers of aviation. I'm talking about the other Valhalla that is a dedicated place for operatives of the intelligence community, and particularly the CIA itself. We all deserve to be buried with dignity and honor, not because of who we are, but because of the things that we do. And it takes some real chutzpah, to stand up to an entire agency. And I'm not saying it takes an action such as what Snowden did, right? And Edward Snowden, he lives in exile. They made an example of him. And I think that should change. I think that Snowden should be allowed back into the United States, and any charges against him should be null and void. I would love to see him get pardoned, quite frankly. Because whether or not his action was actually treason, or what the NSA was doing was treasonous, it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the rectification. And this was the shtick, okay, of the liberals. And they wanted to give money to everyone and anyone that had happened to have been wronged, or that could plead a case to say that they were historically wronged. And as it depicts in the movie, right? There were individuals who made a major cock up, right? And other people paid for it. And what is it? Either the rage or the frothing at the mouth. I wouldn't say hatred. I would say passion of passion that led to certain individuals, as evil as they were, right? Still met the bar minimum requirements of a cognizant human being, a sentient person, capable of making their own decisions. And as he says, killing off an intelligence source or an asset, it not only stops the change, right? It prevents, or so it doesn't stop further actions, and in fact, it harms everyone because you don't get the information out of the person. And what they were really getting at is that, again, certain individuals were seeking revenge, and they basically misrepresented the agency and the people that trained them. Can I say objectively is that there aren't people that specifically seek out situations in which they can torture people? No, there are certainly people that are like that, and they're called psychopaths, and they exist, and they're not always easy to flush them out, right? What can I say? I'm trying to stay in context of this movie, right? Hindsight may be 20/20, right? And the reports that we put out sometimes are censored to a point that for which no one can do anything about it, because someone near the top of the pyramid doesn't want anyone to do anything about it, because what they want is revenge. They want cultural, historical, and financial revenge. And we allowed these people to rise to positions of power because we trusted them. We trusted them. But if there's anything to learn from, it's that the ways of the cloak and dagger have been around as long as humanity has. And so these covert operations that happen in the shadows and through conversation, were adopted by a particular demographic and used and refined and honed these daggers in their own time, in their own place, a place that we gave to them. And what do we have to show for this gift and this liberation of their slavery? I think you can figure it out. Now, if we're going to talk about things, the further implications presented by this movie, well, it's a huge clusterfuck. It's a giant clusterfuck. You know, it's a colossal leviathan of a fuck up, right? Because what they wanted was destruction of the United States for their own purposes, and the destruction of the United Kingdom for its own purposes, and the destruction of European sovereignty for its own purposes. And this is an inconvenient truth for all of us. And this is, again, one of the reasons why veterans kill themselves, is when they figure out that they were fighting a war that was not theirs, and for people that don't even care about them. I said that in a video on this channel, and the video is just me rambling, right? Just me talking and walking with 25 pounds in a backpack, and 10 kilometers all the way to the blood bank, and the return trip, right? So that's 5 kilometers of ruck with 25 pounds, a blood donation, and then another 5 kilometers. And I said in that video, war is a blood sacrifice for people that don't care about you, and they never will. So you better have a goddamn good reason as to why you pulled that trigger. And it sure as hell shouldn't be for them. So now that I have put my dramatic pause in here, let's talk about the actual actors and the performance in this movie. I think it's very good. I think this is one of the more important movies or docudramas put out. Yeah, I think it's a disclosure, and the Access to Information Act, both here in Canada and the United States, is one of the pillars of democracy, and we must continue to allow that or permit the distribution of the truth, because we make many decisions based on false information and fake news. So if you want to drain the swamp, well, the best way to do that is to be a steady hand, right? For those of you who have flown gliders or a positively stable aircraft, you know that the lightest touch is best. And that it doesn't take a lot of input in order to send the aircraft into a tailspin. And that is, to me, the driving mechanism behind this central character that Adam Driver portrays. And I need not speak anything else of Mr. Driver. You know, he was a good actor a long time before he hit the screen. And so we also have John Hamm and Annette Bening. I think Annette Bening is portraying, was it Nancy Pelosi? She seemed to look a lot like Nancy Pelosi. And I don't remember who John Hamm is representing, or he's portraying. I just glazed over that. Not like a glazed donut or something perverse. I know one of you is probably thinking that right now. You deviant person. My goodness. I think this was an honest and accurate portrayal of the grinding gears of bureaucracy, right? And there's no one that does bureaucracy better than the communists or communist governments. Okay, you need an approval for this approval because that approval only approves this, and you need another approval for that. So this is the application for the approval of the approval of the approval of the approval. We'll get back to you in 3 years. That's like the movie Brazil, right? The movie Brazil is Terry Gilliam, right? Is a classic. It's a classic example and satire of Western liberal idealism, and as the truth is, right? Too much liberty, it leads to slavery, and you know, if you're not, I've said this in other videos, if you're not in service to something or in service to someone, you're either servicing something or you're servicing someone. So you see how a little trick of the grammar completely changes the definition. And that's those gray areas are exactly how this demographic of people that I've spoken about in this video, that's exactly how they operate. So it's not implicated, right? It's very much sanitized because of the history, and you know, they didn't really have a whole lot of time. You know, they had to edit the whole thing to be under 10,000 words or whatever it is, under 400 words or 10 pages or whatever the requirement was. And you know, I could go on for another 20 minutes about this stuff and how interesting human intelligence really is. And if I'm going to relate it to another video, and I might have said this before, but I don't remember the movie, but the librarian, the CIA librarian, is played by Nicolas Cage, and I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was one of his best performances, was just as the supporting role, you know, that happens to be one of the most important people in the entire operation. All right, it's a good movie. I think the actors did a really great job. You know, this is one of those films that needed to be filmed. Right? This is just one of those things that needed to be done, because if it wasn't done, then evil would persist. And evil is not defined by religious belief, is defined by actions. And that's all I'm going to say about it for now. Anyways, to all of you patriots out there, thank you. Continue on. I know no one gives you any praise, and they just want to see you fall, but I don't. I'd rather see you succeed. Amen.